Welcome, dear students, dear friends, all intelligent people who are searching for some new discoveries. My name is Petra Gustin, or Prema Manjari, and I'm practitioner of Bhakti Yoga for last 30 years. I would like to share many things that I have learned during my long practice of Bhakti Yoga, especially regarding the meditation and the disciplining the mind. And we will start today with one text from an ancient yoga textbook, which is called Bhagavad Gita, and which describes the nature of the mind. So in our classes, which will start coming quickly, we will first learn about the nature of the mind. Because if we want to obtain something, if we want to be able to discipline our mind, then first we have to know it, at least to a certain degree. We have to learn at least a little bit about its nature. And this will really help us to understand what is then the proper way to discipline it, to bring it under the control of the self. So we will look at this text in Bhagavad Gita, and it goes like this. This is chapter 6, which is called Dhyana Yoga. And Dhyana Yoga basically is yoga of meditation. I can actually recite a little bit of Sanskrit, and I will read part of the text, not everything. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati balavat dridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayur iva sadushkaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. And the purport: the mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium towards both friend and enemy, but ultimately, no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad 1:3-4, it is said, Atma namrati nam vidi shariram ratam evacha buddhim tu saratim vidi mana pragraham evacha indriyani hayanahur vishayam stichugocharan Atmendriya manoyuktam bhaktityahur manishina. And then the translation. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by greatest thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga. But such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind. And it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. So this is a very important and very wonderful text in this ancient yoga textbook. And now actually I would like to tell you also a little story. But before I start, I would like to ask for the auspiciousness, for the blessings from my spiritual teachers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchanga Gorange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. So we could read in this text that the nature of the mind is that it is extremely turbulent and it is also very strong. So it is restless, it is turbulent, it is obstinate and very strong. And the comparison given was like that of the wind. And we know that nobody can control the wind. So why should one even attempt? And the story that I wanted to tell you is just a little bit the background story about the speaker of this verse, of this text. And this verse was spoken by Arjuna. And who is Arjuna? Arjuna is very unique personality. He is one of the main characters and the heroes of the Mahabharata. Those of you who know the Mahabharata, this is the ancient historical story about the long history actually of India, what has happened there like about 5,000 years ago. And it is actually the true story about a great battle in which like millions and millions, millions upon millions of soldiers were killed. Maybe I will tell in some other verses some more about this, but for now, just I would like to describe some things about the character of Arjuna. So Arjuna was not an ordinary man. He was a royal prince, and he was exceptionally qualified. Exceptionally qualified means that he was his character was very elevated. So he had very wonderful qualities. He was very brave, but he was also very honest. And actually, he was actually the best archer on the entire planet at that time, the best archer in the world. And he had the ability to focus on his target, like with one pointed attention, so that actually, even when he was just a little boy and he went to his teacher of the martial arts, Dronacharya, to learn about archery. And his teacher asked, actually he asked many of the students to aim the arrow at the target, and the target was a little bird which was placed somewhere on the branch of a tree, which was growing at some distance. And Arjuna, when he focused his attention, his focus was so strong that he did not even see anything else but just the eye of the bird, because this was the task, that they would have to, the arrow would have to pierce the eye of the bird. Don't worry, it wasn't the real bird. It was like a wooden bird. And Arjuna was the only one who had such concentration. Like everybody else before him, his brothers and his cousins, they were saying, oh yeah, when the teacher asked them, so what do you see? You know, you aim at your target, you know, the bird and the eye of the bird, and now tell me, what do you see? And they were saying, oh, I see the bird, and I see the leaves, and I see the branches, and I see, like, you know, different things around, many other trees. And Arjuna was the only one who said, I only see the eye of the bird. So that was his concentration, like one pointed concentration. But here in this text, we see he is actually rejecting. He is rejecting the yoga practice, the Ashtanga yoga practice, which is yoga practice in which a yogi goes somewhere to seclusion and then just prepares himself first with the yoga asanas, and then gradually with pranayama, he enters the stage of meditation, just like very peaceful meditation on the self. And Arjuna rejected it. He said, no, it is not possible. I'm completely unqualified. I cannot do this. My mind is disturbed, turbulent. It is like a wind. So the interesting thing is, if Arjuna thinks himself to be unqualified, what then can be said of us? How much more unqualified are we? And actually, I would like to bring to your attention even some other explanation, and this is from another yoga textbook, ancient yoga textbook. This is Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutras, there it's actually described that our mind can have 5 different stages of 5 different states, actually, in which we can experience either distraction or peace and satisfaction. So this is something very, very interesting for everyone, you know, who would like to bring more concentration and more focus in their mind. So the first stage is called Shipta in Sanskrit. And Shipta is a disturbed mind. This is a restless mind. This is the mind which is just jumping from one thing to another thing. And this is also the mind which is full of polarities, which is full of like, on one hand, it may be very happy for some short period of time, and then again it may jump to its opposite state and become very depressed or angry or agitated. And this is the mind which is never peaceful. This is the mind which requires constant stimulation. This is the mind which drives us. And, I'm explaining this because most of the people at the present time are in this state of the mind. So this is the mind which drives us to check upon our messages in WhatsApp, on Telegram, check our mail, or go on YouTube and just surf there, watching one video after another video, just desiring constant stimulation and constantly changing. And it's unable to be really focused on one thing because it gets bored and wants something new all the time, something new. So does it sound familiar, like something that you can resonate with? So another state of the mind, it's called the Muda state of the mind. The Muda is sometimes, this word is also connected with the donkey. And actually, the donkeys are also known for being very foolish. And the Muda state of the mind, it's a different state than Shipta, but it's also the state of the mind that we are experiencing. Most of us, we are experiencing this, most of the people are experiencing this mind regularly every day. But in this case, this Muda mind is the mind which is very lazy, which is kind of very dull, and actually does not have the energy. Do you maybe just remember, at times when you feel kind of tired, or you just got up, or you are just before you're going to sleep, or just any kind of the day for some people, you just you can't concentrate on anything. It's just takes too much endeavor. You just splayed out, your attention is just unable to grasp anything, just a dull feeling in the mind. But this kind of state also brings very unpleasant emotions in the mind. And these emotions are mostly sadness and even depression. It's actually in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is another very important yoga textbook. It's actually explained like this, and I will actually read this text. It is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 25, Text 18. When one's higher awareness fails and finally disappears, and one is thus unable to concentrate his attention, his mind is ruined and manifests ignorance and depression. You should understand this situation as the predominance of the mode of ignorance. So this is something very, very interesting, which is being described in this text. So the mind is ruined practically. So we actually can't really function anymore at that time. And this is the time when we just want to go to sleep. Such a person just wants to go to sleep, cannot really concentrate on anything, cannot really contemplate or think about or study or doing anything, especially for you students. This is the state of the mind, which is not desirable at all, because you're not able to study when you are in such a state. So these are two lowest states of the mind. And as you could see here from this text that I just read from Srimad Bhagavatam, there is some kind of a force that is entering the mind to bring these qualities. And it was mentioned the mode of ignorance. So what is this? This is actually invisible force in the nature that is actually everywhere in this world, and it is affecting every one of us. These are so-called three modes of material nature, three invisible forces that actually direct our lives. And also forces, they force our mind into different states. So we will talk about these forces a little later in some other classes. So for now, I will explain a little bit more about three other states of mind. The next is called Vikshipta, and Vikshipta state of mind is a little bit higher state of mind. In this state of mind, a person has sometimes ability to focus and concentrate. So at certain times, one is able to do a good work, like mental work, intellectual work, to really focus and concentrate. But then, you know, if there is some distraction, something happens, then he loses this focus and the mind again becomes distracted. So this is called Vikshipta, which means also fluctuating, that sometimes there is some concentration and then again the mind, like a butterfly, just flies away and loses this concentration, and the person is unable to keep this uninterrupted focus. So maybe some of you can recognize yourself for this state of mind. Maybe you are in this. And actually, as far as these forces, invisible forces in the nature, this is the mixture of sattva or goodness and of rajas, these two forces. But I will explain more of the forces in future classes. And even this state of the mind is not the most desirable, although we could say that ordinarily a person is lucky even if he can attain this stage, because this means that there is some peace in his mind, at least some peace. Most of the people don't even come to this state of mind. It is actually mostly for people who are already practicing some kind of meditation and some kind of training and trying to discipline the mind. But then there are two higher states, and the next state is ekagra. Ekagra state is a state of the mind in which the mind is able to focus, is able to concentrate, and it has this like one-pointed awareness and concentration. So this is a very desirable state, actually, because when we come to this state, we can really work, you know, intellectually with our mind. At that time, we can really study, and the mind actually can enter very deep into the subject matter that we are studying and absorb, you know, whatever we need to learn or study. So this is the level that we should really aspire for achieving. And in some other literature, this state is also named as a state of Nishta. And Nishta actually means to be fixed. So the mind is able to be fixed in this, on this same level, very peaceful. And all this, you know, chatter that it's so common and that we experience in the lower stages, lower states of the mind, this chatter goes away. Such a mind is quiet. Can you imagine? Such a mind is quiet and peaceful. And there is really a great sense of happiness coming in such a state of the mind. It is very, very pleasing, very, very happy. It's kind of like a natural internal happiness that the person is experiencing in this state of mind. And then the last state of mind, which is actually not so relevant for us because it is very, very, very high state. And it is actually possible to achieve only for those who are really dedicated in their practice of yoga and meditation. It's called Nirodha. And this is the state of Samadhi. And you know what is Samadhi? Samadhi means such a deep, deep concentration that it actually brings about total absorption of the mind. Total absorption of the mind. Like the absorption is so deep that the person becomes completely unaware of his or her surrounding and just like enters another world, we could say. So this is also something that one may want to aspire for, but it is definitely more interesting for people who are spiritually inclined. Okay, so these were some of the different states that the mind is experiencing. And we can say that at present time, we are mostly experiencing these lower states, especially Shipta, which means like very agitated, restless mind, which needs constant stimulation, or the Muda state, the mind which is dull, which is kind of really lazy, sleepy, totally unable to concentrate on anything. And now, of course, you may be asking, okay, so this is the nature of the mind, but is there some solution? Yes, there is solution. And there is each and every one of us, no matter at what state of mind we are presently, we can actually come to a higher state of mind. We can actually increase our focus, our ability to concentrate. And the most important actually method for achieving this is the meditation. And for this time in which we live right now, it's especially recommended the mantra meditation. The mantra meditation is extremely, extremely powerful way to achieve these higher states of mind and deeper focus and deeper concentration. And I will speak more about this meditation and mantras in some of the future classes. So I will end here. I hope that you heard something interesting and valuable, and I'm looking forward to your presence at the future live classes, both at Facebook page, at our Facebook page, Bhakti Yoga Online, and also our YouTube page, Bhakti Yoga Online. So see you soon.